All right, so I thought I'd talk about the latest Snyder Cut controversy on Twitter. Something getting blown way out of proportion, and you have people that are failing to see the forest through the trees, and it has a lot to do with the runtime of the Snyder Cut. Now, somebody on Twitter suggested that there's possibly more cuts of the Snyder Cut because, Zack Snyder said that himself, that there's more than one cut to the film, to his film. Now, we know he circled a 214 number on the Snyder Cut poster that he gave out during the Snyder Con earlier this year. And obviously, that's the runtime of the cut he likes the most. That's why the number's there and everything. That's 3.5 hours worth of movie. Now, anybody thinks that Warner Brothers was really going to release a 3.5 hour movie, you're fucking crazy. You're out of your goddamn mind. They would never do that. And if you followed Zack Snyder's career at all, you would know that every single film he's made has had multiple cuts. Even 300 has a director's cut. But Zack Snyder's yet to put that out. In fact, most movies have director's cuts. Most you'll never really see. And without a doubt, there is a shorter version of the Zack Snyder cut of Justice League that he was going to release in theaters. That is apparent. That is very clear. And Kevin Smith, during that podcast with Cinema Blend, he makes an excellent point about the studios and how they are less likely to release something that has a bunch of unfinished special effects, which is without a doubt what the 3.5 hour Zack Snyder cut is. It probably has quite a few unfinished scenes. But if there is a shorter version, which there no doubt is a shorter version, then that would most likely have finished scenes. A lot of finished scenes. Probably damn near done. Now, you have a lot of Snyder Cut fans that are being very short-sighted about this, very childish about this, and they keep saying, 214 cut or nothing. And I really got to question whether you're a fan of Zack Snyder, whether or not you actually want to see the Snyder Cut, because if you really wait on the 214-minute cut, you're going to be waiting a hell of a long time. The likelihood of us seeing that cut is very low because they have to finish the film. They have to actually go back and spend money and finish the effects because Warner Brothers isn't going to put out something that's half finished. But they would put out something that's close to finish. And if Zack Snyder has a shorter cut of the film that's close to finish, the likelihood of that being put out is way higher. And if they actually do put that out, then people will see that Zack Snyder's version of Justice League is better, and then more people will want his full cut. People are unwilling to see how one thing leads to another. If they put out a shorter version of Zack Snyder's Justice League, a lot of people will see it. And if people love it, and it becomes a huge cult film, and Warner Brothers has a longer version of it, then they will invest money and finish it. They have to see the reaction, though, to Zack Snyder's cut. Now, of course, if the shorter version comes out and everybody hates it, then we'll never get the 214-minute cut. But we have to start somewhere. This is a clear roadmap to the ultimate director's cut. They put out 3 different cuts of Watchmen. Batman vs. Superman had a shorter cut in theaters. Do you really think Warner Brothers was going to let him release a 3.5 hour cut? No, Zack Snyder was prepping a theatrical cut, no doubt. And Zack Snyder asked a question on Vero. He asked what 165 means because, somebody put up a random number, and he was just like, what the fuck does that mean? And everyone's like, see, there is no shorter cut. And it's just like, dude, he's genuinely asking what the fuck that number means. Because I didn't even know what it means when somebody puts up 165 randomly. And he asks what that means. And people act like it's confirmation of something. It's not. He's genuinely asking what the fuck that means. Because not even Zack Snyder is entrenched in the Snyder Cut as we are. Because he's making other films right now. He's actually doing shit with his life. But it's extremely frustrating how nobody could see the forest through the trees. How nobody has any foresight. Like, really? You're going to wait out for a 214-minute cut when the likelihood of them putting it out is extremely low? When there's probably, most likely, another cut of Zack Snyder's film that was going to be released at theaters. That's almost done. We can see that cut, and no doubt it'll be better than the Justice League they released at theaters, because that movie was dog shit. So anything's going to be better than it. So we need something. I mean, it's so goddamn simple. You put out a shorter version of the film. You test the waters. People fucking love it. Then you put out the longer version with the finished special effects. You go back, you invest, and you make a cut that's impossible to refuse. Oh, you like Zack Snyder's Justice League that we just put out? Well, here's a fucking 3.5 hour version with finished special effects. Rebuy it again. Warner Brothers is a business. If they can get away with putting out several different versions of Zack Snyder's cut, they will. In fact, that's probably the best way they're going to make the most amount of money, by putting out several different cuts. So everyone needs to really stop being childish about this. 214 or nothing. That fucking bullshit's got to go. Because we've been waiting long enough for this, and we are owed something. And it's not a fucking compromise to get a shorter version. You know why it's not a compromise? Because we have no fucking say in the matter. Warner Bros. Is going to release whatever the fuck they're going to release. We have absolutely no say. What are you going to do? The Zack Snyder cut comes out. It's shorter than 3.5 hours, right? It's a 2 hour and 40-minute film. You're not going to see it. You're not going to buy it because you want the 214-minute cut. Stop fucking lying to yourself. Of course you're going to fucking buy it. And you're going to wait for another cut of it because we know there's a 3.5 hour cut. But a 2 hour and 40-minute, whatever cut of the film is still an hour and 40 minutes more of Snyder footage. The Justice League released in theaters only had an hour of Zack Snyder footage. So if they release a 2 hour and 40-minute cut, that's still an hour and 40 minutes more. That's still a hell of a lot. That's a whole movie more. And it would be unprecedented. Not many director's cuts come out that have an hour and 40 minutes more footage, Most director's cuts only have 30 minutes more max. Most director's cuts usually only have 10, 15 minutes added. If they release a shorter version of Zack Snyder's Justice League, it's still going to have over an hour of new footage. That's a hell of a lot. And I'll take anything at this point. And if you don't buy the shorter version, then they won't release the longer version. So it's not a compromise. It's your only option. That's what it is. It's clearly the best chance to get the actual Snyder cut that we all want. The 3.5 hour cut. The best chance we have is if they release a shorter version and then that sells like hotcakes and becomes a huge cult classic. Then Warner Brothers goes back and invests more and releases. That's the only chance we got. And y'all are gonna fucking just throw that away because you want the 214-minute cut or nothing. Like you're fucking children. It's like if you went to go get ice cream and you wanted vanilla, but all they had was chocolate. And you're like, oh, I don't want any ice cream anymore. I only want vanilla. It's fucking childish. Just be happy you're getting ice cream in the first place. Anyway, that's it for now. And if you're one of those people that really just wants the 214-minute cut of Zack Snyder's Justice League, you really need to ask yourself, how long are you willing to wait for this? Because it may never come out. By the simple fact that in order to get that 214-minute cut, Warner Bros. Is going to have to invest more money into it. And they don't want to do that, clearly. If they did, they would have done it already. But a shorter cut that Zack Snyder was meaning to release to theaters, the likelihood of that having more special effects done is way higher. That one could be close to being presentable. And Warner Bros. Wouldn't have to invest damn near anything to complete it and put it out. But anyway, I'm going in circles. I'm a Zack Snyder fan. I just want to see his work. Even if it's a shorter version of his cut, it's still his movie. It's still what he wanted. And it's a hell of a lot closer to what he wanted than the actual Justice League that was released. So, get some perspective. If Warner Brothers releases a shorter cut of Justice League, that means the likelihood of us getting a longer cut increases dramatically. But you have to start somewhere. We have to get something first in order to convince Warner Brothers to release a longer cut. Or everybody could just make this way harder on yourselves and keep asking for a 3.5 hour cut that's not finished and just wait for years until the technology gets cheap enough that Warner Brothers can make it without investing a lot of money, which is probably like 10 years away at this point. But yeah, that's it for now. I'll see you all on the next one. Bye.